Welcome, everyone, to the Steelfence podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Parrish. I'm here to talk about everything practically Steelers related. We're going to talk about the Week 18 game against the Browns, why I'm actually okay with them missing the playoffs, what's their future offense coordinator, a couple guys that I think the team's going to let enter free agency, and 2 draft prospects for everyone to keep track of. But first, we got into Steelers-Browns, which was the final game of the Steelers season, as we now know of it. They didn't make the playoffs due to the Jets winning. Not winning, Jets losing, Miami winning. A little brain fart there. But the Steelers maybe had their best game Week 18, which isn't great if you're like, oh, we should have made the playoffs. If that was your goal, this season's a disappointment because they didn't make the playoffs. If your goal is Super Bowl, it's a disappointment because they didn't make the Super Bowl. They were never going to make the Super Bowl. They had a shot to make the playoffs. I said in my season predictions, they could sneak in as a 7th seed because I thought their back half of their schedule was very weak, and I feel like they could have racked up some wins there. They racked up a lot of wins, but they were unable to make it, and I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to be like, oh, center of the world, they missed playoffs one year, because I was happy by the end of the season. Week 18 was their best game because their young players started to play well. TJ Watt looked healthy, which was a concern for me, even though he is one of the best defensive players in the game. I'm always going to be concerned about a Watt brother having injury issues with how hard they train, because they train their bodies so hard that it can just wear and tear on you faster. JJ had a lot of injury issues with the Texans, and I will still say this. In his prime, JJ Watt's the best football player I've ever seen. But you want to look at it like this. DeMarvin Leal, he started playing a good role for the Steelers. They figured out what he is. He's a rookie. Mark Robinson the last 2 weeks got a lot of playing time. He got his hat. He was playing the run like a madman. He is one of the most fun players to watch in this team. I'm excited to see what he does in the 2023-2024 season. He's someone I'm going to keep a heavy eye on. And Kenny Pickett developed as the season went on, and that's very important. He took care of the football in the back half of the season since the bye week. He didn't have the yards, didn't have the touchdowns he wanted. He did not have as good a year as Brock Purdy. But when you compare the two, there's no wonder Brock Purdy had a better rookie year. That's because Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL today, maybe all time, you could argue. He has a stacked receiving core and a great O-line and a coach who knows how to get the run game going no matter how you put it. Kenny Pickett didn't have all those luxuries. He had to injure Najee Harris for most of the year. Jalen Warren is a guy I'm really high on. I think he can be very good, a good 1-2 for them. He is a UDFA. There's a reason he was a UDFA. And you have Deontay Johnson being very inconsistent and George Pickens also being a rookie. Pat Freiermuth was probably their best target to use during the year, and he still had his struggles. I hope everything's okay from what I've read. It is not torn ACL, if anyone's wondering from this. But Pat Freiermuth is probably the most important guy for Pickett's growth. And let's look at the other spots on the ball. The line wasn't that great, but they did get better as the season went on. I'm going to talk about them in a sec when we talk about Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator or what's going to happen there. But I feel like there was progression by the end of the season. Najee was healthy. He was running the ball more efficiently. Pickett and Pickens was I believe they finished the season with the highest pass rating between a quarterback and wide receiver for the season. Pretty much overtaking the Russell Wilson-Tyler Lockett-led duo that took that award home for felt like an eternity. But there were some issues with the Steelers, and you can go to they didn't score enough points, and that's a combination of a couple things. One, I don't think their line was that great, but I do think it got better as the season went on. Two, they were hurt. They want to run the football. They want to be a run-first team. Well, your starting running back is hurt. That's going to take an effect on you. And three, you got a rookie quarterback. I see people bad-mouthing Canada and everything, and again, we're going to get into it, but there's only so much you can do with a rookie quarterback. EJ Snyder said the best thing, and this was in their bootleg football preview. I recommend it if you're a football fan. Find their podcast. It's amazing. Him and Brett Coleman do a great job. But he was talking about Trey Lance. He said this was going to be Trey Lance's rookie year. This was before everything. This was before the season even started. And he pointed out something very important that I think Steelers fans need to realize. If you win your rookie year, great. You're not supposed to. If you're over 500, great job. That's what Kenny Pickett was. He was over 500. And I'm not coming on here saying he's the next Mahomes, he's the next Allen, he's the next Burrow, he's the next Trevor Lawrence, because I never thought he was that. If he developed into that, he proved me wrong. I'd be as happy as could be. But looking at Kenny Pickett today, I think he can be a solid quarterback, maybe in the Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr slot, which would be very good for the future of the team. Now, there were some negatives in the Steelers' overall season, and it poked its head a bit in the Browns game. They need cornerback help, which is why we're going to talk about a couple prospects. I'm just going to mention one, and we'll get into it when I do, but they need cornerback help. It's a big issue. They need some interior defensive line help. Cameron Hayward's not getting any younger. I am a big Larry O fan. I'm not pronouncing his last name. I will goof it up. But he's not going to be your nose tackle. They need to address nose tackle, and I thought that was something you could see. By the end of the season, they kind of had a better understanding of what they could and couldn't do in the rush defense, but it reared its ugly head. And lastly, they do need to improve their own line. And again, that's something you can do in free agency or it's something you can do in the draft. And again, I'm going to mention a prospect here, but I want to now dive into the offensive coordinator position with Matt Canada. And listen, Steelers fans, Matt Canada's staying. You can like it, you can hate it, he's staying. The growth we saw by the end of the year is something that is going to keep him his job. I do not expect him to be fired. If his contract was up, then I think I could have seen him moving on. But they're not firing him. I also think it's important to keep him, to just keep roster structure as it was in the coaching staff, because the Steelers have had a revolving door of the offensive line coaches. Not many have hit. And I'm blanking on the current O-line coach, but he did a great job getting them by the end of the year. Dan Moore progressed really well. I thought he was a fine left tackle. Midway in the year, I was going to say replace him. Now at the end, I watched him. I said, you can roll into next year's your starting left tackle. Chuck's on the right tackle side, maybe move on from there. You can free up some cap space if you want to by cutting him. I'm okay with keeping him, though, and I think James Daniels and Mason Cole did a very, very good job. But there is one problem with the offensive line, and that would be left guard. And I hope Kevin Dotson improves. If they keep him as starting left guard, I hope he takes a step forward, but he's been so inconsistent. It's hard to say that. But this whole point of me saying is the offensive line progressed under the O-line coach. It's a Matt Canada guy. The receiving coach is a Matt Canada guy. I don't know if the running back coach is. I don't know off the top of my head. But I'm willing to bet he's a Matt Canada guy. So when we do all this stuff, this is a young team. We're in a retool. You're not scoring 30 points a game. Now, do you need to beat the Chiefs and Bills? Yes. But they're not at that stage yet. We are not to the stage where I'm saying you got to burn Matt Canada at the stick. Because I'm going to tell you this now, Steelers fans. Matt Canada has not had good quarterback play. I am a Ben Roethlisberger fan. He was my quarterback growing up. The first ever game I watched, Ben Roethlisberger was the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. It was against the Los Angeles Chargers on a Monday Night Football game. Then no, San Diego Chargers. But he has been my guy. He struggled after his elbow surgery. And I do think Ben still had some of those throws in him. He still could do it. But this whole Ben called all the plays, it's nonsense. That was just something that the media ran with. I don't believe it for a second. Now, let's look at the flip side. What do the Steelers do the best in offense? They do their best when they have motion, when they have the jet sweeps, those wide receiver handoffs. I know. It's crazy to say they're good. They work. And motion is one of the most important things to use in the NFL nowadays, because it gives you an advantage on offense. You can identify coverages. You can learn something about the defense by just doing simple motion, because if a guy has to follow him across the field, they're running man coverage. If they pass him off, they're running zone coverage. Motion is important, and that's what Matt Canada's offense revolves around, is motion. The Steelers need to use more motion, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but they didn't use enough, in my opinion. When you use motion, you help your rookie quarterback. You help Kenny Pickett identify the defenses he's going up against. And you make them make a mistake because, hey, if we're going to hand it off to, they use Gunner a lot in that role. Hand off to Gunner. Okay, he's got 2 hands in a row. We need to watch him. Oh, they just ran up the middle with Najee Harris, and we had a guy out of the box because we were following Gunner. Motion is important, and the Steelers need to use more of that, in my opinion, next season. Now, are there some other guys you could say that the Steelers should hire for offensive corner job? Yes, top of my list is Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach for the Eagles. And the reason why he's number one on my list is because I'm a Florida Gators fan. I saw him work with Kyle Trask. I saw him work with Felipe Franks. I thought he did a great job with those two quarterbacks. Then you look at the other quarterbacks he's worked with. Dak Prescott, pretty good. Alex Smith, pretty good. Now let's look at the NFL. Now he's with the Eagles. Anyone else find it funny that the guy who's been working with quarterbacks in the NFL gets hired to a team and the quarterback takes a massive leap forward in just development? I don't call that a coincidence, and I'm not saying this anything against Jalen Hurts. I think Brian Johnson's just that good with quarterbacks. I think he will be a head coach in the next 3 years. And I would not be upset if the Steelers moved off Matt Canada and hired him, because I do think he could help Pickett a lot. I think he could work with Pickett a lot. I saw Kyle Trask, a guy who does not have anywhere near the athletic ability that Kenny Pickett does, torch SEC defenses. And I know it's college. I know. I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett's going against easier defenses than Kyle Trask did. But my comp is Kyle Trask, I don't think, is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Kenny Pickett could be. Kyle Trask does not have the athleticism. He does not have the natural ability that Kenny Pickett does. With what Kyle Trask had was great coaching and the ability to carve up the second best league. You can say the USFL, you can say the XFL. Listen, I'm going to take Alabama to beat those teams. I just am. And Georgia as well. I'm not going to throw Georgia out, but Alabama's just first team comes to my head. But then the story is, he works great with quarterbacks. I'd love that move because I think he could work great with Kenny Pickett. The next guy, Frank Reich. Frank Reich's a popular topic among Steelers fans, wanting to be the next offense coordinator. I'm in it for a bit, but I don't know if firing Matt Canada and bringing Frank Reich brings in a major improvement on offense. Because I saw how Frank Reich's offense does when the line isn't great, and I'm not a fan of it. And I know everyone's going to be saying, oh, well, he was OC in Philly. Yeah, Philadelphia has had one of the best offensive lines for like the past 10 years consecutively. Indianapolis, when he first got there, the line improved dramatically because they got Quinn Nelson, and they had 2 NFL elite tackles. Steelers don't have that. And I'm not saying Frank Reich would be a downgrade, but I don't know how much of an upgrade he would be that you have to move off your current OC and quarterback coach. And that's kind of it. I mean, I saw Andrew Filipponi threw out the name of Byron Leftwich today, saying that Steelers are going to monitor the situation if he's going to be fired. You told me that a year ago, I'd probably be a lot more excited. Based off this past year, I'm wondering how much of that was Bruce Arians calling the plays and Byron Leftwich just being along for the ride. And I do think Leftwich can be a good OC. I think he is very smart. Everyone that talks about him speaks glowingly about him. Bruce Arians is one of the smartest offensive minds in NFL history. I'm not afraid to say that because I do think he's one of the best quarterback guys. He handpicked him to be his offense coordinator, and he told the Cardinals after he retired to hire Byron Leftwich to be the offense coordinator. He clearly has faith in Byron Leftwich. That tells a lot for me because I think Bruce Arians is a great offensive mind. He knows offensive talent, and he knows offensive coaching. But those are the current 3 names, and I rank them in order of how I would do them. And the only reason I have Leftwich behind Reich is just because we haven't seen him be great without Bruce Arians as his head coach. And that being said, there's a giant asterisk to every one of the Bucs season this year because their O-line has not been good. Their O-line has just been bad. But let's move on to free agency. And the first guy I got to talk about is Devin Bush. And he's not going to be returning to the Steelers. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. I think a lot of Steelers fans are going to be celebrating the day he leaves. He was a waste of a trade-up with the Denver Broncos. You look at some of the guys I just mentioned on a podcast with my dad a couple days ago or something. Could have had Jeffrey Simmons. I know. I believe Hargraves was still on the team when they traded up and did it, but man, you could have had Jeffrey Simmons. It sucks a bit, and Bush is one of those guys that just doesn't fit the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's too small to play how a Steelers linebacker should. And I'm not saying the Steelers are going to be like just big guys that can't move. No, they want athletic guys. They want big athletic guys. Devin Bush is a very athletic guy, but he's not big. He doesn't attack the holes like you need him to. If I had to bet, I bet you he'd go somewhere west. I could see him doing very well in a Rams jersey, maybe in Seattle, but he does not fit the Steelers mold. He does not fit the AFC North style football of hit the hole, hit the running back, because Mike Tomlin said it was schematics why he was not playing the last 2 weeks. Well, guess what? Those are two of your most important games you have to win against the Ravens and Browns. If he's not playing, he's not AFC North football caliber. He's not playing for the Steelers. And a guy you could see replacing him would be Tremaine Edmonds, and they have to clear up cap space. Of course they do. They're going to clear up cap space. There's going to be a lot of cap shenanigans by now and then. Tremaine Edmonds would be a perfect Steeler, and he fits the family mold because you already have Terrell Edmonds. They've had Trey Edmonds on the team before, and they clearly like that family, and they clearly have trust in them. And Tremaine is a great linebacker for the Bills. He's maybe one of the most underrated linebackers on that team, which is saying a lot when Matt Milano is on that team, and he does not get enough respect as he should. But I think you look at the Steelers, it's probably going to be a bit more of a normal Steelers free agency. It's not going to be like last year. They're going to free up some cap space. They're going to sign a couple guys, but nothing major. I don't expect anything like gigantic breaking news type stuff. And now let's get to the bulk of the fun stuff for me, and that would be the NFL draft. Now, mind you, I have not had the time to sit down and watch draft prospects. These are from the games I watched them and with what I felt watching them. And the number one guy I think is going to be drafted by the Steelers is Joey Porter Jr., if he's on the board, because I have a hard time seeing him make it to 17. I've seen a lot of fan mocks. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where it's like, oh, he'll be available in the second round. No, he won't. No. He plays way too physical to fall in the second round. He is going to be like J.C. Horn, where he's going to start at the bottom of the first. He's going to make his way to the middle of the first, and then by April, he's going to be a top 10 pick, and everyone's going to be like, well, we didn't see this coming. No, it's obvious. Now, there are two corners I would like to see them take in the first round if they were on the board. Joey Porter Jr. is one, as I just mentioned, and he would be the Steelers' ideal target if you ask me. The second would be Cam Smith from South Carolina, who plays similarly to J.C. Horn. Cam Smith is probably going to be my number one corner. I'm going to love him. I'm going to probably say he goes in the top 10, maybe top 6. It depends. I could see him going to Seattle, too, just with how Pete likes his a little bit handsy corners. It's possible, even though I think Seattle doesn't go that direction. They'll probably go late round corner. But he's a fun guy to watch, and he's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Another guy needs to be talked about is Jordan Addison, and I'm going to tell you this now, Steelers fans, do not draft him in the first round. If he's available in the second round, maybe. I wouldn't take him the first second-round pick. The second-round pick, I take him, but I don't think Jordan Addison's talent weighs in the Steelers' issue at wide receiver, and I do think they need to take a wide receiver, and I'm not saying Jordan Addison's not first-round talent with what I'm saying. Jordan Addison would be the third wide receiver in that locker room. That's not worth taking at 17. Unless a Quentin Johnson or a Jackson Smith JSN, because I cannot pronounce his last name for some reason, even though his older brother is on the Pirates, and I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Just can't pronounce his last name, but JSN. If any of those two guys fall, I say take it because I think their talent outweighs it. I think those are the two best wide receivers in the class. It's not even close. And I will say this. You draft Jordan Addison, you train Deontay Johnson. They're too similar of a play style. You do not take one and keep both. It's one or the other. And I know Addison has the development. He has a rapport with Kenny Pickett, which is huge. We saw Joe Burrow at LSU with Jamar Chase. There's a difference. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow tore up the SEC. Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett, even though I think that's spectacular, they tore up a weak ACC. And I don't think Addison will be a day one hit like a lot of people do. He's probably number 5 on my board for me. I prefer Downs and Flowers. Downs from North Carolina and Flowers from Boston College over him right now. I think Addison is talented, but I don't think he's worth the 17th pick for the Steelers. He will go in the first round without a doubt, though, in my mind. Another guy to talk about is Paris Johnson, left tackle at Ohio State. And I know what I said about Dan Moore, and I know how I said I think he improved. Paris Johnson was somehow on the board in 17, and he ain't going to be there. I'm well aware of this at this point. You draft him because, man, that's a franchise left tackle. And one of the guys I want to throw in here is Peter Skronowski. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that name, from Northwestern. I would draft him. I'd move him to guard just because his arms are smaller. I feel like he'd be a better guard in the NFL. With what I'm pretty much saying is he could be a Robert Gallery, where his arms are just not the proper length you want for an NFL tackle. And you move him to guard, and he'll be a pretty good to great guard for his career. The guy I do think the Steelers will be taking the first round because I think he'll be there, and I think they'll like him, is Osiris Torrance. God, he's on the Gators. I'm blanking on his name. Good God. While I look up his name to correct it, I'll just say some positive things about him. He was amazing for the Florida Gators. He was the best player by a long shot on I'd say, bad Gators team. And this is not me going you can't do anything without him. He was their best player because he was able to open up rushing lanes. He was pretty much the focal point of the offense, which is weird for offense linemen, but you could run behind him with Travis Etienne or anyone else they had back there. You could run with Anthony Richardson. You had protection with him. And so Cyrus Torrance, don't know how I blanked on his name, but he is going to be a NFL guard. He played some tackle at Louisiana, but he is a guard. And this dude transferred up from Louisiana to Florida and was a All-American, first-team All-American, dominated his competition, and is by far the best guard in this draft. Now, could I see him going higher because he is the best guard? Absolutely. Kenyon Green, I did not think would go as high as he did. But the Texans valued him as a guard, and they took him as high because he was the best player at that position. Torrance will probably be there on the board for Steelers 17, and I would say this, I'd be willing to trade up for him. I think he's that good. But those are kind of like the few guys I can think of off the top of my head. In future weeks, I will be talking a lot more about free agency and draft prospects. We just got to see them happen because there's so much unknown. Combine will kind of give us a rough estimate of who will be on the board, and who I like I'll be bringing up as I watch more and more prospects after the Super Bowl. But I hope everyone enjoyed this first Steelers-only podcast. I'm a big Steelers fan, and I kind of just want to talk about the Steelers for like 30 minutes a week or something. Just kind of share my thoughts. Maybe I'll go to an hour during draft season because I do love the draft. But if you have any comments, you want me to change anything up, or if you just want to stick around and just keep on paying attention to me talking about my favorite team in sports, stay tuned and have a great day.